Welcome. Today we will be talking about emotional projections.
Today we want to talk about projections and how projecting our fears or having others project their fears onto us affects our daily life on a one-on-one basis with ourselves. No one else but ourselves, but hardly anyone stops to talk about it. Yet it is an important conversation to have, because if you realize that point in which you are projecting your fears and insecurities on others, you're going to be able to diagnose when other people are doing the same with you. And that in and of itself, it's a huge accomplishment. When you can recognize what fears you're projecting onto others, you're stepping into another new, more mature aspect of this evolutionary process of life. You're becoming accountable. Therefore, you're becoming someone new to yourself. And this is not necessarily something that you might want to share with others. It might be, it might not be. But altogether, recognizing those projections ultimately can be such a healing path, because once you recognize and appreciate where your fears are feeding themselves with whatever it may be. It could be social content, social media content. It could be the music you're listening to. It could be friends or social life that no longer applies. It could be so many things. But more so than anything else, it's your own thoughts. It's the appreciation of why you think the things you think, because there are patterns that develop over time. And you're constantly using the same highway to achieve from one point to the other when there are so many different avenues for you to explore from. So when you start becoming accountable and self-reliant, observing how you're projecting these insecurities, observing how these insecurities get a hold of you, then you're able to stop it. It's as if you have a bad habit, but others can see it. With this, most likely than not, no one else is going to see it. It's you with yourself. That's why we're saying this is an important conversation to have. But it's one that is an individual conversation. Once you realize that you have two parts of yourself, you have the part of yourself that is covered with light, possibility. You are a galactic part of the universe. You are absolutely every single possibility you can think of resides inside yourself, and you are part of this abundant flow of possibility, life, love, wisdom, courage, stability, abundance. Then you're unstoppable. And as soon as you start realizing the brightness in your glow, you might activate the shadows in others, because they start seeing those shadows. They start feeling uncomfortable with the brightness that you and your presence creates at a vibrational level in themselves. When there is someone confident in the room, usually a person that is not as confident will start bickering and talking very loudly because they have something to prove. The confident person has nothing to prove to anyone, and they usually stay quiet, for instance. Just like this, please stay quiet and listen inside of yourself what those projections that others are doing create in your awareness. What do those projections create? Do they create fear? Do they create anger? Do they create sadness? What do they create? And then replace it immediately with another thought. Replace it with another thought that actually nurtures you. I am enough. I am full of life. The universe surprises me in mysterious ways. I am ready to receive abundance. And once you realize that your mental patterns, some of them at least, have been created out of the scarcity of your cultural upbringing or your generational upbringing or your whatever it may be, know that this too can be recreated. You can recreate this, no problem. Your brain is the best athlete you've ever seen. You just have to put it to practice. And there are many videos, not just this one, that teach you about this. So we encourage you to look at those videos and do the work. Because if you're noticing that other people are projecting their insecurities on you, more likely than not, you're in your way to grow and to evolve into a new human being. And probably that scares them because you're no longer that person that they once knew. And that's completely fine. We all change. Life is change. Look at a river. If a river stays the same, it would not be a river. It would be perhaps a lake, but even a lake, you throw a rock and you see the ripple lines effect. And just like that, we create ripples in our world. We create ripples in our community, and we create those ripples within our loved ones. You have no idea what triggers those pressure points of fear in other people. Not even the closest ones to you, because you were not there when they were growing up. You were just simply not there in every aspect of their lives. And even if you were, each person views life individually from a particular lens. That's why when you look at someone's eyes, every single iris is different, one from the other, just like a fingerprint. No one has the same fingerprint. We each have individual ways of seeing life, and that diversity is so amazing and beautiful. And it's linked to the abundance that we find in nature and in the universe at large. And rather than wanting things to be black or white, when people project, or when we ourselves are projecting these insecurities or fears, they're occurring within a spectrum of gray. Because it's complex. You're seeing all the goodness of possibility mixed with all the fear of insecurity. So it is a gray, because it has aspects of your own darkness and aspects of your own light, love, and self-reliance embedded in it. However, it is important to distinguish when you are projecting and when others are projecting. Because being able to differentiate this also creates an awareness needed for evolution, an awareness needed for those boundaries that determine self-love and self-care. Because sometimes people just want us to take on more than what we're able to. Sometimes we look for support on others that are not even able to handle their own weight, and we're probably unaware that they're struggling. So we'd like to deposit all of our fears and pains and whatnot on them, without being aware of how much we're actually harming them. And some of this, again, could be a cultural thing. Many things could be rooted from cultural upbringings, but overall, again, your brain is the best athlete you've ever seen. There is such a thing as neuroplasticity, and you can use other avenues to get from point A to point B. You don't have to take the same highway all the time. Recognizing projection is a huge step, because when you recognize that someone else is projecting their fears onto you, you are no longer a target for them, because you can remove yourself from the equation easily. You realize this, and all of a sudden everything clicks. It's as if a mechanism just ignited within you, and all of a sudden everything that seemed off and everything that created stress is slowly creating opportunity and possibility into a new life that is blossoming before you. And this is something not so easy to do, because this is usually something that occurs with loved ones. So you don't want to harm them or cause them any pain or suffering. But ultimately, we all have a life to live, and every single one of us has a right to look after our own health, to look after our own happiness and our own peace. Each one of us has the right to create boundaries where boundaries are needed, create distance where distance is needed. Because once another person starts to corrupt your value in their lives, certain things happen. And usually when you're about to step into this new version of yourself, you can no longer carry that reality with you. People are going to want to stay comfortable, to stay in the known. And that's usually when you start listening to messages like this, because you know that there's something more. You know that life is offering you something else, something a little bit more different, more aligned with where your vibration is at this present time. And we commend you for doing the work of realizing your own fears. That's a huge step. That's a huge step. A lot of people want to be blind to their own fears, so they keep feeding them without knowing that it's probably harming those closest to them. And this is not to change anyone. Everyone is in perfect timing. The universe has a divine timing for each and every one of us. And everyone where they're at is perfectly okay. This is more so to recognize the diversity and the individuality that resides within you, that is asking for connection and is asking for that resonance of vibration into the new version of yourself. And wherever you may be right now, you can't seem to find someone to talk about it with, because this is something that typically your friends probably don't talk about, or your loved ones probably don't talk about. However, it's something that you've noticed and you're curious about.
We'd like to thank the sponsor of today's video, M2 Holistic Studio. M2 Heals is an educational initiative created by our interdisciplinary design and research atelier, M2 Holistic Studio. At M2, we explore how architecture, psychology, neuroscience, nature, and the environments we create influence human well-being. Through M2 Heals, we extend that research beyond design, sharing conversations that help us better understand ourselves and the world around us.
Because evolution does happen in a series of events, and this is one of them. The history of humanity is actually more brutal than we care to accept. And overcoming our fears, or at least just being able to observe them, takes so much courage and maturity and compassion and love. It is probably the biggest exercise of love you can ever do, is know yourself a little bit more. Because the more you know yourself, the more you know those around you. There is a level in vibration where we are all one. And you've probably seen this in popular movies or heard it in popular music, songs and such. But at the end of the day, it's very true. We all have this collective consciousness that connects each and every one of us. And through this message, we're also connecting with this collective consciousness and reminding our collective consciousness that possibility is in vibration with imagination as well. That our soul has that ability to connect, create possibilities. Our imagination is how we connect at a soul level with possibilities unbeknownst to us. It's as if we become channels of something bigger than ourselves. And that happens more and more when you're able to stand up for yourself, for your fears, insecurities, as well as light and abundance and grace and gratitude and compassion. Everything is just one thought away. So make sure that you're choosing your thoughts mindfully. Make time to not think. Make time for yourself to not think about anything. We have 24 hours a day in which at least 8 hours are dedicated to sleep. At least 2 hours are dedicated to eat daily. Okay? How many minutes or hours are you dedicating to your mind? 20 minutes? 30 minutes? 15 minutes? Create new habits for your brain, for your mind. Help yourself out, because no one out here is going to help you. You have to do it. It's just like swimming. You have to learn how to swim for yourself. And perhaps a lot of you listening are not swimmers, but you know what I'm trying to say. This is something that is an individual task, an individual journey. So we welcome you and we thank you for creating this moment to listen to this and to share with us whatever experiences you've had, whatever realizations you've had. Because the more we can talk about it, the more we can learn more about ourselves and ignite this beautiful community into one of self-growth, self-evolution, awareness, compassion, and grace.